Hey guys, welcome back to Project Time Garage. The Polaris Magnum 425 has been running really well since we did all that work to it, troubleshooting that problem, the runnability problem. I've used it a bunch, it's been doing really well, but it developed a problem charging the battery. So I have a really good AGM battery in there, and it's been in there for a long time. In fact, I think it's been in there 2 or 3 years. It's the same battery that it had when I dragged it out and we did all that work on it back in that previous episode. So I think today the thing to do is let's figure out why it's not charging. It pull starts just fine, but that kind of gets to be a pain. Plus my kids can't really get up there and ride it that well because they're not strong enough to pull start it. And want it fixed. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna use the humble multimeter and a little bit of information out of the service manual to try and work out what's wrong with this thing and kind of go from there. So let's bring you over to the bike. Let's get started there and just kind of work through the procedure here. The battery for this monster moves under the back here. It's here. Let's go ahead and see what kind of voltage we have on that battery. We'll go over to 40 volts, plus and minus. 0.13, not good. Well, let's go ahead and do this. Let's rule out this battery because, a battery with, tenths of volts is pretty suspect anyway. So I've seen flat batteries cause all kinds of maladies with machines. So just to rule it out, I'm just gonna get a hot jumper box and we're gonna sit on there, and that should be 12.5, 13 volts. We'll start the machine and we'll see what it's, what the alternator is putting out. So let's get a jump box, sit on there, and we'll figure that out. All right, jump box. Now let's measure some voltage. At the terminals, 13.27 volts. So that's enough. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and start the machine, and let's see where we are. Actually, I'm actually not going to start the machine. I'm going to turn the key on, and I'm going to turn the headlights on as bright as I can make them. And I want to draw this jump box down just a little bit. We're 12.5, 12.5, 12.4. There. So at this point, I'm going to turn the lights off, start the bike, and this 12.7, 12.8 should rapidly run up. The book says between 13.0 and 14.5 volts is what we should read. So let's try that. Okay, actually, if you'll notice, my voltage went up when I turned the key off. So we definitely have no output on this thing. Well, the next thing we need to figure out is just a little bit of wiring information. These Polarises, they have a voltage regulator, which is located on the very front, in front of the gas tank, mounted to the front frame. And that has a single wire that runs all the way back in this area back here to the starter solenoid. And one of the easy things to do is make sure that wire has continuity. In other words, make sure that wire is not broken, because it could be that the voltage regulator is sending out plenty of charge and it's just never making it back here. In order to shortcut that whole thing, what I should be able to do is I should be able to go up here, find that wire, and I should have battery voltage on that wire right now because I still have my jump pack on here. So I should see, 12.5, 13 volts on that wire while this jump pack is hooked up. So let's jump up front, have a look at that. All right. It's pretty handy. This is where all the goodness lives. Well, this is our voltage regulator here. And the way the manual shows it, these yellow wires here, these yellow, brown, and yellow red, those come down from the stator, the actual AC portion of the alternator. And this box here has the rectifier and the voltage regulator both built in it. So it's taking that AC voltage and converting it to DC to send back to the battery to charge. This wire right here is the wire in question. So we should be able to put our meter up there and we should see battery voltage at this wire. I'll just slip underneath the thing there. We'll go to ground, 13.13. So that basically tells me that that wire is good all the way to the back. It's the same wire. All right, so the next thing that we need to do is we need to test the wires coming off the alternator. We need to make sure that the alternator is putting something out, right? We also need to make sure that the wires that are coming from the alternator are any good. So let me get set up and we'll do that real quick. Okay, the next step that the manual lists is to do an AC amperage test. All right, so I need to switch my meter over to AC and of course amps. And to do that, I need to move this guy over to here. And I'll go over to the 20 amp scale on my meter. So I'm measuring 20 amps AC and I'm between common and my amp portion of my multimeter. So what the service manual calls for is to start the machine, let it idle, find the yellow, which is this one, and the yellow with red, which is this one, and go between them. And between them, I should have roughly 5 amps. 5 amps AC. So I'm between them right there. So let's start the machine and see what we have. I'm actually showing about 13 amps. So that's pretty interesting. Let's go back to AC voltage and just see what we're showing AC voltage wise. So I'll put my meter back over to measure voltage and ohms and that, and then we'll go over to an AC scale still, but we'll go over to voltage. So let's start it back up and let's just see what the alternator is putting out down there. It's putting out about 30 volts AC, which is actually fine. The amperage is a lot higher than what the manual calls for, but I'm using a radically different meter, and this machine is about 3 years newer than the manual that I have for it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say, yeah, that's fine. At this point, the book basically says, hey, yo, if you come this far and all this stuff checks out, replace your voltage regulator. And that's probably what's wrong with this bike. And the reason for that is because I ran this thing with a dead battery for way too long. And I'm pretty sure that I'm the one that killed this voltage regulator. So, since I killed the voltage regulator, I get to buy a new voltage regulator. I'm back. I have a new voltage regulator. I saw this coming. I was reasonably certain that that's what the deal was with this. So I jumped out on Amazon and I got a El Cheapo one of these. case anybody cares, I'll go ahead and leave a link down in the description for this. And we'll see if it works on my machine or if it catches it on fire, blows up, and kills us all. We'll learn together. Question is this a heat sink? It probably is. So I think here's what we're going to do. I think we're just going to go ahead and just kind of lay this on the front of the quad, wire it up just because it's quick and easy, and we'll start the machine and see if it's charging or not. If it's charging, then we'll go through the rigmarole of actually screwing it down and fastening it properly. No sense in doing a lot of work that doesn't have to be done, right? All right, so we have a yellow with red, and that matches the red wire here. And we have one that's just yellow, and that matches up with the just yellow wire here. Okay, we have it very basically hooked up, just kind of laying there. Nothing's final. So let's walk back to the back here and let's start the machine and see what happens. So there's our meter. Turn the key on. So we're down to 13.4, 13.5. Let me draw some voltage down. I turn the lights on. That'll pull it down some. Start the machine. Oh yeah, look at that. 14.4, 14.46. So we're charging. So that one's actually working. Of course, for how long? Who knows, but it's working. Okay. Okay, so it's reasonable to assume at this point that that unit's faulty. So let's go ahead and we'll pull this old unit out, stick the new one in there, button it back up. There's a couple of connections that are a little bit wonky that I don't like. We're gonna have to do something with those. They just don't feel right. They're loose and kind of wiggly. I can't have that. So let's go ahead and get that taken care of, and then go ahead and drop a battery in this thing while we're at it, since the other one is completely and totally spanked. This bad boy takes a star bit. But project time, you ask. You have electric drills. Why aren't you using them? I don't know. I'm about to. I'm about to. So much faster. There we go. The old unit. I'll use my trusty screwdriver to get it started back again. All right, folks. See that connection there? That's loose. In fact, all of them are a little bit loose and suspect. See here, what I'm doing is I'm going to cut the ends off of my old unit, and we're going to put them on this one so that I know they have a nice tight fit like they're supposed to. They're not rattling loose and causing more problems than they're fixing. We'll use these things because they are fantastic. If you've never used these things, basically they're called solder melt. And basically this is solder in the middle here, and these are waterproof rings on the outside. So once you put these on here and on your wire, then you take your torch and you squeeze them down, the solder melts, it solders the wires together, then it seals the ends, so they're weather tight. They're really, really good. I'll also leave a link to these down in Amazon if you want to get some of these things. I keep tons of them in just about everything I run because for weatherproof connections, they rock. Take a little longer to put on, but they're well worth it. Just strip your wire back like that, twist them together, and heat them up. They just seal right together. Just like that. That should be a put together deal. I am going to take I'm going to take a couple of zip ties and just kind of get these things arranged somewhere so they're not so out there. Put this thing back together. We'll stick a battery on it. All right, out with the old battery. And this one might take a charge, I don't know. But part of me kind of thinks maybe not. It's been so dead for so long. I mean, it was zero volts, 0.1 or something like that. So I don't hold a whole lot of hope for it. But you never know. I am going to stick it on charge for a little while and just see what it does. And of course you can see this was actually a really good AGM battery. Sealed lead acid, pre-charged, which is exactly what we're going back with. I've basically started running nothing but AGM batteries and all my power sports type stuff. Those batteries that you buy that you add the acid to and you charge them overnight, all that stuff, I've had the worst luck with those things as far as just longevity. They come out of the gate good and strong, but usually like month 6, they crash and crash spectacularly. But I've not really had that problem out of this style battery. So if you're that person that has your ATV or whatever motorcycle parked for long periods of time and go back to find a weak or dead battery, consider moving to an AGM. That'll probably fix that. It's fixed, charges good, runs good, and all's well that ends well. Well, it's as easy as that, I guess. Guys, appreciate you hanging out here with me. If you haven't already done so, I'd appreciate it if you would leave me a thumbs up down there if you liked it. Hope this helps somebody out. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends about us. Guys, I'll see you next time.